fostered hundreds of animals and got them adopted into their new homes. I am Leslie Heaney, and I'm asking for your support for 6th Ward City Council.
So next we have Mr. Rich Jones, he's running for 3rd Ward.
How everybody doing? First of all, I would like to thank you to all involved, Black Lives Matter, Man Up, and Andre Rising, and an extra special thanks to everybody that's here, and a super extra special thanks to Flint Beach. They are the only news coverage in the building today, and they all have been notified about this form. Also, I would like to send a shout out to all of the write-in candidates that are here that supported the other people's form. I really appreciate that. We showed a lot of class. And we're going to continue to show class, but we're going to make sure that we are heard. And I've been active in my community ever since I was the age 19, coaching the 18 and under basketball team at Christ Fellowship Church. I used to be the night director right here in this building, to where I've grown the neighborhood back into Berston. And when I say grown back is, a lot of these kids, okay, I'm gonna make it quick. A lot of these kids that are getting in trouble, they are not programmed children. And what we once had here was an open process to where kids off the street would come inside, and then we can reach out and we can help them. And I'm going to pass the mic.
You got lots to say.
A lot.
You're going to get all of it. You're going to get all of it. I'm surprised.
Don, you know, that's wireless. They can just pass that down.
Well, I'm the only one that gets to stand up, so hi. I'm Tanya Grimes, and I'm running for 1st Ward City Council. I have over 1,000 credit hours of service to the city of Flint. I didn't plan on standing up for now. I kind of got to get that back together again. I have been working here through the outreach program for the University of Flint. Is how I got started. I'm a global ambassador on that campus, as well as an intercultural leader. When we first had the Flint water crisis, I adopted 15 blocks in my neighborhood, gave out water, wash, and wipes in cooperation with Decatur, Illinois' Water Challenge. So I dealt with people outside of our state in order to get things, resources to come into the city of Flint in order to help everyone. So I was responsible for my 1st ward without getting any recognition, because that's not why I did it. So now I'm running for the 1st ward because it's time for a change. It's time to rise up with rising and make that change, so we are all fairly taken care of in our city, and that we are respected, and that we get what we deserve. I've born, raised, graduated from University of Michigan, as well as Northwestern High School, and I take pride in where I live, and I love everybody. So I think that we just deserve more than what we've been getting, and it's time to get that back. We've been given, now it's time for us to get something back. And so that's who I am. Thank you very much.
Okay. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, so let's get to the questions. I do have the first question. I think what we're going to do is just pass the mic back and forth. Okay, we're going to start here. I'm going to ask Mr. Barber, and I want for each of our panelists to actually respond, starting with Mr. Barber. When many people hear about Flint City Council, the first thing that comes to mind is the dysfunctional nature of the city council meeting. Now, I haven't intentionally watched it. I've actually very intentionally avoided watching these meetings. But in preparing for this event, I went to YouTube, and I'm sure that you guys have too. And what I found when I put in Flint City Council is, I found a YouTube video that says, titled, Flint City Council Meeting Erupts, with over 300,000 views. Now, YouTube isn't just Flint, right? Everybody sees this, right? The other video I saw was the Flint City Council descends into chaos. right? TV12, in June of this year, wrote an article that talked about how the Flint City Council is so disruptive that it missed a deadline to pass a budget after meeting for 9 hours, right? So we're in a crisis. We're in a crisis. So the question that I have for our panelists is, given this, what is your assessment of the current city council, and what steps would you take to change the culture of the city council? What is your assessment, and what steps would you take to change the culture?
Now it's on? All right. I would have to agree with the assessment. It's dysfunctional. You don't get you don't get anything done. We don't get things passed at the time that they should be passed. These meetings were never designed to be 9, 10 hours long, going into the wee hours of the morning. My solution to this is really simple. Be the change that I wish to see. And so by doing that, I just won't contribute to it. There's got to be a voice of reason that sits on the council. And I hope to be that voice of reason. I know that my opinions, and first of all, council isn't run off of people's opinions. Okay, it's about the constituents. So putting personal agendas to the side, focusing on the community and its constituents is my goal. I want people to be heard. I want the people to be educated. And so, to answer in short, be the change that I wish to see and not contribute to the dysfunction.
We definitely see and understand that the current council is dysfunctional, and that was one of the reasons why I decided to run at this time, because they're not getting anything done, which means that the city of Flint is not progressing. So I definitely would not add to the dysfunction. I relate a lot of things to basketball because I am an ex-basketball player, and it takes a team to get something done. It takes a team to progress. You may have 9 people sitting around the table, just as you have 5 people on the court. Everyone brings something different to the table. You can allow someone to speak out and speak up on what they believe without being derogatory, without name calling. As an adult, I don't feel like that should be any part of the aspect of any leaders. So I would definitely bring a change in demeanor, a change in the way that things are handled at the council. But I believe it takes a team. It can't be just one person coming up with their own idea. It has to be teamwork. We have to function as a body and work together.
Thank you. Katie, what are your thoughts on how do you assess the current city council, and what steps will you take in order to change the culture?
Right now, the city council is not getting the people's business done. They go 9 hours in the meeting, and nothing gets accomplished. It gets postponed to the next committee meeting or to the next meeting. They are very dysfunctional, and the reason I'm running is to bring some common ground, some compromise to city council, because there has to be compromise. You have to be willing to work with an administration that's in office in order to get the business done. That's one of the main goals of city councils, to be the checks and the balances of the administration. And in order to be the checks and balances, you have to be equal. We're a co-equal branch of government, and it's time that they act like adults and get the business done. The only people that are suffering through this right now is the residents of the city of Flint. Without the business being done, we're left in limbo. Budget not passing is a perfect example. It was late, it was a charter violation, and the charter is our law. I can work with anybody. I have worked with a lot of people that I haven't agreed with, but I've gotten the outcome that we needed to move something forward. Thank you.
First of all, first of all, what I would do is I would be willing to meet more. I'm willing to have more meetings and spend less time in meetings. I feel there's a problem with them having a whole lot of stuff piled on top of each other, including special meetings. And I forgot the name of it. Y'all gotta forgive me for when they go into their back rooms and we have to wait a long time. And I feel that once our city hall open back up, some of that time thing will go away. As far as agreeing to disagree with somebody, I'm very good at that. And I won't spend an hour trying to tell you to do something that I know you're not going to do. So, and to be honest, if anything is good, like right now, I'm for it. If the mayor brings something good to the table, I'm for it. If any council member brings something good to the table, I'm for it. So that's just how I'm gonna be. And very communicative with constituents in my ward. So when I speak, they will be heard because I'm gonna say what they want me to say. And we just gonna pray that these problems, as far as the reason why y'all don't really want to watch city council or Kansas City council meetings, I think things probably will decrease and y'all can be more involved. So thank you very much.
So as our panelists are speaking, I know that we are all thinking about questions that we want to probe them with, right? And then at the end, we're going to come back and ask those questions, right? So let's make sure that we get our questions ready.
Can you hear me? Okay. So my view at this point is that it is very chaotic and it is very confusing. There's a lot of confusion on the current city council. As far as I'm concerned, the devil is the author of confusion. So I don't know who the devil is. I'm not pointing fingers, but I just know it's out there somewhere up on that board. And me, myself, I try to watch and to listen. And it's just like a circus to me. It's like some sort of B-rated reality show, and it's not worth my time. As far as what I would do to change is that truly the Robert's Rule of Order should come in somewhere where you're respectful. So I would bring agreeableness and not disagreement, empathy, as well as courtesy, as well as respect and responsibility for my actions, transparency, and I would ask that all the rest of the council members would be transparent as well. We wouldn't do the arguments. You give everyone their chance to speak, and then it has to be a cooperation. And we have to find a way for all of us to engage in whatever the issues are as responsible politicians that are working for the people, not for self, but for the people in the city of Flint and especially our ward. Collectively, that would be the city. And so that's exactly what we would have to do. And that would be the only thing that would be acceptable to me, is that we bring back the rules of order, and that there is no name calling, embarrassing situations, disrespect, or any of the abnormal behavior that I have heard and seen. Those things have to stop. It is very embarrassing, and just like the doctor said, if that many people are watching, then that's how embarrassed we ought to be. Thank you.
I'm going to ask that this one. All right. Beautiful, beautiful. Wonderful answers from our esteemed colleagues here. I do have a follow-up question I want to ask that's connected to cannabis behavior. What we all know is that in 2015, everyone in the city of Flint elected a charter review commission, right? And in 2017, they published a number of findings that actually reviewed the charter, which oversees what happens in the city. Now, in the words of the Charter Commission, they wanted to restrict unethical actions and actions where there are conflicts of interest. They also wanted to create provisions for citizens to enforce the charter. So it's not solely the responsibility of public elected officials to do it, but they created positions for citizens to do this, in addition to an ombudsperson. But there are a couple of standards, and I printed it off because I wanted to read it to you. Standards by which they judge appropriate behavior. And it's clear, it really does just make sense. And they're talking about public service. These are people who have been elected by the residents of the city. They say that public servants should not, these are the standards, if they violate them, they're in violation of the city charter. Y'all ready? Okay, I'm ready. They should not neglect the discharge of their duties. They should always report illegal activity or any illegal action or anything that violates ethical standards. They should not misuse city property. There should be no conflict of interest. They should not use their position to influence other city employees. And they should not accept gifts or loans from people who are providing a service to the city. Right now, you get a proclamation from the church, that's different. But they're talking about gifts, right? And then finally, they should not have any undue influence in terms of any decisions that are made to promote their own family members, right? And that just makes sense. Now, the question that I have is, given this, the city charter, how do you plan on ensuring that the standards that are listed in the city charter are implemented? What do you plan to do to make sure that it happens? We start with one.
What I would do to implement it, to make sure that it happens, is to make sure I speak with every city council person that I am working with, every ward, and we would make sure that we had some chain of command and order in which we would have to follow procedures in order for all of those T's to be crossed and those I's to be dotted, so that we were, again, transparency. I can't say that enough. We all collectively as a city need to all be on the same page. And in order for that to happen, it has to be transparency, procedures, and a chain of command in which we follow in order for that to be accomplished. Thank you.
I'm gonna make this real quick. All I'm gonna do is leave us out. I'm gonna leave us out. I'm gonna follow. I'm gonna do as I expect others to do. I'm gonna follow the charter. If there's something in the charter that I don't understand, I'm gonna read the charter. I know the charter, the people that wrote the new charter. I will call them and I will have conversations with them. So I'm just hoping that everybody else on there will do the same thing that I do, and I think we should be all right.
I have read the charter and I've studied the charter. I did that when I started this campaign. I plan on implementing the charter. I'm going to follow it. I'm not going to go with the cafeteria style that they have right now, where you take some of the charter and implement it, and you leave the rest behind. You don't pick what suits you and what doesn't. You have to follow the entire charter. It is the law of the city. They worked very hard on creating it, and I appreciate all the work that they did and they put into it. But it needs to be followed, it needs to be implemented. As we've seen, now that it hasn't been implemented correctly, the city has been sued for charter violations. We can't let that continue. That will lead us straight into bankruptcy. Thank you.
All right, as we are preparing, I want to add just a little bit to that question. All right? So what are you going to do in order to ensure that the charter is implemented? And then also, if you can speculate about why folks aren't doing what needs to be done. Keeping in mind that the charter gives citizens, so my brother right here, this young sister right here, has the ability to approach the ombudsperson and file a complaint based on charter language. Why haven't we been doing that?
I asked that question myself because we do have a ethics committee that should have been more accountable to the behavior of the current council. And I'm unsure as to why the ethics committee have not stepped up to the plate. But I'm proposing to have a committee of citizens so that you don't even have to go to the ombudsman. We have a committee of selected citizens that will volunteer, that will get involved and hold the ethics committee accountable, so that the ethics committee will hold the council accountable. Because right now we need so much accountability. We can't just leave it up all in the hands of the council, because as of right now we've seen what type of disaster that has caused. So I'm proposing accountability on every aspect of the government here in the city of Flint.
So with role comes responsibility, accountability, and transparency. All things new, given the charter is new, comes with education. I don't think our community is educated on what the new charter even includes. Some of my colleagues have mentioned about committees, holding those committees accountable, making sure that those committees, the ombudsman's office has the proper funding to hold those accountable on council. In terms of the charter, one has to read the charter first to understand it and implement it. Every action that city council is presented with must align with the city charter. As others have said, it's the law. It's what guides our city. If we can't follow that, then that's what leads to the dysfunction within the city. Not just on city council, not just in the ombudsman's office, not just in the mayor's office, citywide. So, again, there are guidelines. My plan is to make sure that any decision that I make, any vote that I vote on, aligns with the city charter.
Thank you so much for that. Let's move on to stimulus money. Now, we all know that there's stimulus money coming, right? $94 million coming to Flint in federal stimulus money that has to be spent by 2024. Now, the federal Treasury says that they want to, quote unquote, lay the foundation for strong and equitable, that means equally distributed, right, economic recovery. And they give you some guidelines, but the guidelines are very general. And then they also talk about, they give you some flexibility in terms of what you can do with the money, but they don't specifically tell you how you have to spend it, right? They say you can use it to support households, to support small businesses, to support impacted industries or essential workers. You can actually use it to invest in water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. That's really broad what you can do with this money. So my question for our panelists is, where would you spend this $94 million in stimulus money?
Okay, so the American Rescue Funds Act provided us, like they said, $94 million. We have about 47 of it at City Council. These funds are restricted, and it is up to the administration to figure out how they want to spend it. And it is up to City Council to approve or deny. Now, if they deny, they need to explain why. As far as I'm concerned, I'm a huge advocate for education. I'm an advocate for citywide Wi-Fi. I think that would help bridge the digital divide, provide education for our families, provide resources for our families so that they can be in the know. Cameras to help fight crime and blight. Blight is one of the most troubling things in our community. We have folks dumping at every corner of our community as long as we let them. I'd like to see all community centers reopened. Now, again, these funds are restricted, so how they can be spent, where they can be spent, is a working document right now that explains how they can be spent. So I think education is a great piece. I think all of our boards, all of our citizens in this entire city need to be educated on what the resources are and how they're available to them, what departments they need to go to for whatever their issues may be. That's how I'd like to see the COVID relief funds spent.
Well, I'm going to try to answer this question as best as I can, because the one thing that I am making the decisions for us. And I hope that the constituents are tired of people making decisions for you. So what I want to happen is that the citizens get involved and let us know how the funds should be best utilized. Because you all live here. We live here. We work here. We have children being educated here. So who would know best where the funds need to be spent besides citizens? My whole approach is to get more citizens involved, more people who care about the city of Flint involved. We definitely need to focus on crime. I believe some of that money needs to go towards policing, not only just putting police on the street, but investing in technology such as cameras and drones to man the city of Flint. We can't just do things like we used to do them and expect a different result. We can't just expect police on the street to solve all of our issues. This is going to take a citywide approach with everyone who's possible, who's able-bodied, to get involved with the things that's going on right here under our noses inside the city of Flint. So I'm hoping that the citizens will get involved to best tell us how to utilize funding instead of leaders telling you where the funding should go.
Thank you. So what we know is that this speaks to kind of these campaign issues, right? What these folks believe that we should use money in order to do. So again, Ms. Haney, how would you use that $94 million?
Boy, there's a really long wish list of how to spend the $94 million. Everybody has their own ideas. The problem is, it is encumbered money. And thanks to the federal government, there's 151 pages of rules and restrictions on what that money can be spent on. Right now, in Flint, the only thing that's really qualifying on the list that they give you, and there's four main things that this money can be spent on. Responding to public health emergencies is one. Another one is premium or hazard pay for frontline workers. Then you have replacing lost revenue. And the city of Flint has lost revenue. Most importantly, the last item that this money can be spent on is water infrastructure and broadband. And we have a lot of issues still with our water. There have been several water main breaks over the last 2 weeks. The infrastructure needs to be
Thank you so much.
Well, what I did, I ran across two sets of people in the city of Flint. The set of people who have paying their water bill. We're really three, but we don't leave out the third. Well, I discovered that there's two sets of people in the city of Flint. Really three, but I'm only going to talk about two. I'm going to put the other two in the second category. The first category is those that pay their water bill. The second category is those that do not pay their water bill. So, for those that pay their water bill, I'm suggesting that they take a $3.5 million and give those people a water credit. A water credit. Some kind of way, split that money up between everybody who has been paying their water bill. The second thing that I would do with the money is I would stabilize our water fund. And therefore, once our water fund is stabilized, I will bring a question up that no one wants to answer or do, including our current mayor. Because our current mayor just announced that it's 600 people who have not paid their water bill in a year. This is relief money. I feel that he could take that money and pay those water bills. I also feel that we can, and it's not just him, one of the council can write this up too. One of the council can write this up too. It's not just, anybody can pick up that pen. And I talked to Dan Kilby, and he told me, and I went to him and only talked to him for 10 seconds. I said, Dan Kilby, Eric Mays told me it's going to take $21 million to stabilize the water fund. Once the water fund is stabilized, I want all of our water accounts to be zero balance. And he said, I wrote this bill. It is very simple, and yes, that can be done. When Flint went and talked to the current chief of finance of Flint, you know what she said? All they had to do is be creative. That means those rules that Ms. Haney just explained to them, all they had to do is look through those categories and find a way to stabilize our water balance. And that's something that I would do. I have also been hearing, now remember, I'm suggesting $22 million, 11 this year and 11 the next time it comes, because the money is not all coming at once. It's coming in half. So when the other half come, I will use that $11 million to do that, to finish it off. So you still got $30-something million left for your police department if that's what they choose to vote on. I heard somebody talking about a water bottle company. I heard conversation about entrepreneurship where we teach young men how to build houses and all that. And I'm willing to, if no one else is willing to write legislation to move that forward about that money, I'm willing to. And I'm a Parks and Rec maniac. Park and Rec maniac. I want these schools reopened. Now with this pandemic money, I wouldn't try to find a good thing. I would try to find something. And the water, because the mayor was told not to turn anybody's water off. So that's a qualification within itself. Thank you very much.
Okay, so what I would do is $94 billion, police, fire, our own trash company, so that we can hire citizens and give, that would be jobs as well, small business assistance, and that way we can bring more revenue, and we're also helping our small business, our infrastructure. I have not got to talk about the potholes in the street and what it looks like in our surroundings. Education and recreation as well. We would all of these needs should be addressed with that money, and I don't think anyone would disagree unless they had an ulterior agenda that solely just was focused on just that one person. So I think that that money will be greatly utilized, and that would be good for the city. Thank you.
Beautiful. Hold on to that, Ms. Rodgers. All right, so a number of people have mentioned police as an issue that they want to address. In looking at what's happening in the city of Flint as it relates to the police, what we see is that we have another problem, right? So WNEM5, TV5 posted a story online this week that indicated that police were asking for help because crime is increasing, right? They're speculating about gangs, they're not sure where it's coming from, so they're saying they need some help. Now, according to the Flint Police Chief, Terrence Green, murders in Flint are up more than 40% since last year. And deadly shootings, arsons, and vehicle thefts are also on the rise. Secondly, so I want us to talk about that. Secondly, I want us to talk about, he's making a request to City Council, he made it this week, I'm not exactly sure what happened, to approve a 3-month lease for a helicopter to deter crime at a cost of $304,000 for 3 months. That's what he asked for. And then finally, he wants to hire more officers. So my question is, how would you handle the crisis that's existing in our city as it relates to short staffing of police and the funding of police services?
Okay, so I would hope that we could all agree to hire some more police officers, and using that money that they would use for a whirly bird is what we used to call them when we first had them, use that money to pay them. that would give, that way we can hire more officers, offer them extra wages and benefits. I don't think eyes in the sky is gonna be feet on the street. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Can I follow up? You said you don't think that eyes in the sky will beat,
Be feet on the street.
so you would prefer to see them on the street?
I prefer to see them right on the street. I think that money can be used to give to the officers, to pay officers, new officers, and those who are currently working.
Right.
And we can give them a raise. We will be able to, we can invest in body cam. Pray God we don't have that issue yet with that kind of thing happening with us. But to make sure we don't, we can get body cam. They put cameras on the corners on these, the stoplights. They have boxes and cameras that you can put in troubled neighborhoods. So that money that would be used on, again, a whirlybird, along with, okay, gas, did I hear gas even from any type of, way of, is that included in the cost of this 300? Okay, so is it just, this is for the bird? Or are we talking about this money is for the bird, for the person driving the bird, and for the fuel for the bird, and the maintenance for the bird? So why would you waste that money when you could have put that money into a new sanitation system and started up buying some trucks and there's some workers on? So I just think that the money could be utilized so much better in the city, on the city, rather than something that's up in the air that's only temporary fix. That's like sticking a Band-Aid over a huge gap in a dam. I mean, sorry, that wasn't a bad word, damn, that was a wild word.
Thank you, Price. Mr. Jones, I want to add something to that. Right? So one of the things that we all know is that the police have a very contentious relationship with the Black community.
Yes.
Right? That's a universal kind of thing within the U.S. So this whole idea of policing is not necessarily something that's embraced by everybody in the Black community. So how would you address this whole idea of short staffing of police, recognizing that you need them, and then how do you sell that to your people? Right?
Man, I was just talking to Chief Green today. So I'll get back to that conversation. But as far as what you were saying, we was talking about this. Please don't laugh. But I would try to pull what I term as a real gangster move politically. I would go after that woman that's writing these grants for the state police department. And I would do whatever it takes to get somebody like that to come to the city of Flint and help us get the money that is really needed to fund a real police department. When me and Chief Green was talking, some of them troopers get paid close to what he make. They cars, y'all already know, their cars cost way more than the automobiles that we have. And they are able to patrol our streets and the highways. And when there is a 911 call, it's more state trooper cars available. Some kind of way to increase the number of police officers in the city of Flint. And another thing that we need more investigators. We have to sit, because we can't, just because you put 1 million police out on the street, that don't mean ain't nobody gonna break the law. But what we need to do is let them know, if you do something wrong on Monday, we knocking on your door Tuesday. Right now, some of these people are getting away with multiple bad things. So we got to find a quicker way to get these people out of the street and sending a harder message to these people. Now, as far as the helicopter is concerned, remember what Chief Green said. They can chase one suspect at a time. It's 1 million kids on Collier Road. They gonna pick which one they gonna follow home. And what is good because and I lived in Orlando. it was this man that walked into Walmart and threatened to kill his wife. And he was in such an uproar with guns and everything that if he would have been confronted, it could have been innocent characters. What they did, they let this man leave Walmart, drive all the way home, get comfortable, and when they went to arrest him, he killed himself. That was the state of mind that he was in. So I'm not totally against the helicopter, but I want people to be aware that can only handle one incident at a time. So,
Right.
and with or without the helicopter, we need more cops on the street. With or without the helicopter, we need more investigators. With or without the police, we need better parents. We need better mentoring. We need to talk to these kids and stop staying out the way. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you. So, Ms. Hay, I'm going to ask you a little bit more to you, right? So, in addition to thinking about how you're going to handle the crisis as relates to short-staffed police, if you are familiar with community policing, as opposed to the help of the eye in the sky or the cameras on the street, can you talk about how that could potentially fit?
Okay. First off, I want to start with how would we get more officers on the ground? We need the police union to negotiate a much better contract to make it favorable for new hires, not just those that are already there. We need incentive bonuses for hires. We need bonuses for retention so they do not go to another department. There's a lot of them around. I've noticed lately that Flint Township has quite a few new hires. City of Flint does not. The budget is already there for 20 new officers. The problem is getting people to fill those positions. Today is a tough day to be a police officer anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world. And that's part of the problem. I think with community policing, if we have neighbors that are involved, opening these mini stations are going to help. You get the community in the mini stations, help man them. You're talking one-on-one with fellow residents, and they're going to feel comfortable talking to a resident as opposed to a police officer. And I think that is where the direction we're headed, and that's the best thing right now that they're going to do. Again, I look forward to these mini stations being opened and the community actually being engaged in helping and watching their neighbors. Like we watch our neighbor's yard, their house, just for anything that happens. The reason I'm kind of tough on crime, I had a bullet come through my window of my office while I was in it. And that was a couple years ago. And that really woke me up to just being, living in Flint. And I live in, what they would consider a good area, the 6th Ward. But it was a stray bullet, came through, shattered the window, did a lot of damage to the house. Police officers responded, no arrests were made. They couldn't get anybody to cooperate. That's the tough part. And I think with residents and being involved, people will talk to residents where they won't talk to the police. Thank you.
Beautiful. So our remaining panelists can talk about this whole idea of community policing, where you have police officers who are literally in the community. I don't know if I may be a little bit older than most folks here, but we had Officer Finley at our school. I mean, he would come through, we got to look at his badge, and we saw what the handcuffs looked like. But we had a relationship with the police. It wasn't as if we only saw them when they were coming to arrest us or coming to harass us. So if you can talk about this whole idea of short staffing of police and the role that community policing could potentially play in getting folks to embrace policing a bit more.
I want to first address the $300,000 expense for the helicopter, which I don't think is a good idea. And I don't think it's a good idea because we're leasing this helicopter for 3 months when we can purchase drones to utilize as long as that we can utilize them and hire at least 2 police officers. So I think we need to better utilize the funds that we have access to and make them make sense. Secondly, I do believe in community policing because for the Black community, unfortunately, the police have been a double-edged sword for us. So we need to build relationships and actual police on the ground to not look at young Black men as criminals all the time, but to look at building Black communities so that we can talk to each other. When we did have policing, community policing, we had better rapport with the police, so that when you seen a police that you knew, you respected them and you straighten up doing what you're doing or what you were doing. I am also involved in a program right now with Officer Maria Reed, and it's called Critical Intervention or Crisis Intervention Training. Right now, is only one police officer that's trained in CIT. She's been working with me with mentally ill people. Right now, with the lead, we had a lead crisis that traumatized some of our children. It caused some mental issues that nobody is addressing. So you want to just come and arrest our children instead of addressing the mental aspect of what is causing all this crime, and it's not going to work. So I think that we should definitely get more police on the street, but we have to develop a better rapport between citizens and the police. We have to develop programs starting from high school that will draft young men or women into the police force. There has to be a streamline from high school to get younger people involved in policing our own community. Because in order to stop the brutality of the police, it's gonna have to be people from the community that cares about the people in the community, that is willing to work with the community. You cannot just say put more police on the street. And I have a young Black son. I have 2 young Black sons, and I've dealt with police harassment. So it's a double-edged sword when you say just put police on the ground, boots on the ground. There has to be some community mending, and there has to be some kind of training that will deal with the mental aspect of our young people right now.
What you're recommending is something that's happening across the nation. What we see folks doing is sponsoring young Black and brown folks into police academies. So they literally pay for them to go, and then the expectation is that they come back and serve in those communities. So it's possible. It's possible. This is my last sentence on that question.
So I'm not sure if anybody else saw yesterday, but the mayor did issue a state of emergency. With that, personally, I think it's a short-term solution, but with that comes more officers. That comes with funding for the Haskell Center and the PAL program. It includes funding for additional officers. If I recall the numbers correctly, of the 20 positions that they had open, 12 have been filled. And with the state of emergency, more are opening. While I don't have all the details on the helicopter, on the surface, I am in agreement with it. We cannot train enough officers in 3 months to get to the level that we need in the community. Nor would I want a 3-month trained officer to be servicing the community. So with all the violent crime, in addition to the traffic crimes going on in our community, drag racing, there's a mud rally going on the south side right now at an old school ground that I heard about. So there's a ton of traffic issues along with the violent crime. Some of them intertwine with each other. I think first of all, the helicopter, the $300,000 for the helicopter does come with the 3-month lease, a pilot, storage, and maintenance. I'm not sure if it included gas. I think that was budgeted. And personally, I think it will allow the boots on the ground to respond smarter. I also think that we need to install and implement more technology to help our officers respond smarter and with lower risk. I think community policing is incredibly important. I agree with my colleagues here that you can't just show up when something's wrong. Folks need to see present, whether it's good or bad. And I think programs like the PAL program, police just showing up in the park. There was a basketball tournament at one of the community schools. There was several officers that showed up there, and just really engaging with the youth, I think, is really important. And it provides for equitable inclusion, which I think is also highly important in our community.
All right, I have one last question for our panelists, and then we're gonna turn it over and make sure that you guys have some questions for our folks here. But if you could respond to what's happening with the master plan, and I don't know how many of us are aware that the city of Flint, like many cities in this area, have developed what they call a master plan. They put this together in 2013. And what they did is they divided the city into these zones. One of those zones is called a green neighborhood. And what this means is a green neighborhood, and this is how they define it in the master plan, is our neighborhoods where previously vacant or underutilized properties have been repurposed. They have become low density, not a lot of people stay there, residential neighborhoods with a significant amount of land dedicated to green uses. And these uses are community gardens, small scale urban agriculture, and small open spaces. Now, it sounds great, it sounds wonderful, it sounds beautiful, right? The population in Flint is decreasing. We understand that we have to repurpose the land. However, if we look at where these green zones are located, what we know is that they are located on the north side of Flint. It is bordered on the east by Saginaw Street, right here, on the west by Brownell, on the south by Hamilton, right over here, and then on the north by Carpenter Road. So the overwhelming majority of these spaces are located on the north side. Now, they do some really interesting wordsmithing in the document that make it seem like, right, people can invest and they can reinvest and rebuild that area. But the question is, will they, right? Will they actually invest in those areas? So what I'd like to know is, do you have any thoughts on the City of Flint's master plan in allowing the north side to develop into this green space? Any thoughts on that?
Are we talking specific to the north?
I would say, and I have a map I can show you if you like, about 80% of the green neighborhoods, about 80% are located in that area I just defined. Yeah.
The reason why I ask is because I'm in the 9th Ward, South End. This morning, I held a cleanup on one of these spaces.
Okay.
And so that's why I'd like to talk to them. It's a 7-acre property that's owned by the land bank currently. It used to be the home of American Standard Cotton. Now it is riddled with blight. People go there to dump nearly daily. However, the master plan, at least for the South Flint community plan, there's a green trail that is being developed that goes through the south end of the ward and connects to Chevy Commons area. And that's supposed to run right alongside with that. I've been involved with discussions that we're looking at companies coming in to repurpose this land, and it wasn't viable due to the toxicity on it. So much like Chevy Commons, we face that toxicity issue throughout the entire city. We do need to come up with creative ways to re-engage these properties. Right now, this property that I'm speaking about on the south end is full of concrete and blight and a bunch of overgrowth. It does the citizens no good, it does the neighborhood no good. And so I think it is important that the community looks at alternative uses, whether that be a park, whether that be a community garden, whatever that it can become to contribute to the success and viability in the city's sustainability, I think is really important. I think that we can't just erect new ideas that are going to fail. We just had conversations about installing water fountains. Who's going to pay for the water fountains maintenance? So we have to be very critical in what we turn these properties into, but I do think it's important that we take an approach to de-industrialize our city a little bit and create some community open green space.
I do agree with community open green space, but I also see the master plan. And Doctor, you stated that it's 80% over on the north side. First of all, if we create whole neighborhoods of green space, we are a city of approximately 90,000 residents. That is another way to decline residency. If it's green space, it's not being utilized for housing. So you have to be mindful that the more green space they create, the more in decline we have as residents, which means that the taxpayers who's currently paying taxes would have more taxes implemented on our homes, which causes more impoverished neighborhoods, I'm sorry. So I'm all for green spacing. It's not done equitably. Be mindful of that and understand that I'm currently sitting on the board of Catholic Charities, and we have implemented a program to develop tiny homes right here on Stewart Street and on Rich Street, because you can utilize that space as well as draw residents back to Flint. We don't want a lot of green space because it decreases the residents right here in our city. We need residents to come back to Flint so we can utilize residents to create more businesses and gain more taxes for the city of Flint. We cannot move Flint forward without residual income to the city. That's right.
I would like to see Flint built back into the town that it used to be, where you can have your children, your grandchildren, and your great-grandchildren all grow up here. I don't agree with all of the green space on the north end of town. I think we should have subdivisions and businesses. I do not think that we need all this farmland that they're talking about with the parks. It's just, as Keisha said, it takes away the residents, and it's going to put a bigger tax burden on the other residents that remain. But everybody says, oh, parks are beautiful, parks are great, and they're nice in limited quantities. We don't need to wipe out a whole side of town and make it green space. There are people living there that have been there for years. Let's keep them in their homes. Let's work around them. Let's build new subdivisions. We need to bring people back to Flint, and we need to start by cleaning up Flint. Get rid of the blight, get rid of the crime. People will return, along with jobs. Jobs are very important, and if we can get all that together, Flint will be the beautiful city that it used to be when GM was big. Thank you.
Great question. First of all, y'all doing a whole lot of talk about the third ward. I'm for them tiny homes, but I'm for them tiny homes to be just on that stretch on Stewart Street. I talked to residents, and there's nothing they can do about those tiny homes being put on that property. But this other property, we would like to use that same floor model that they're using to drop these tiny homes that Lakeisha is talking about, and drop some real houses, drop some big homes. And the way that I would like to house those big homes is to reward these people who have been living in apartment complexes, doing what they had to do while living in these apartment complexes, not having any police involvement while they were living in these complexes, giving them houses at a good price. That's what I'm willing. I know it's gonna fight because I got to fight against the tiny homes, and I know I got to fight against the people that want to leave it as green space. But I'm up for the fight, and I'm going to fight because, to be honest, we don't want to give up our city the way it's been given up. And there's a lot of people like me that's walking these streets. So thank you very much.
As I was sitting here listening to them answer, I like totally agree with everybody, but I'm really like on that same page with Keisha. Because I wrote it down and once after she said master plan, okay, so I'm just gonna be frank, I don't like it. I don't like the master plan. I don't like the master plan because it's a way not to rebuild our community. It's a way to squeeze us out. It's one thing to have somewhere that's like we have parks, because we do need places for our kids to go play safe and everything and have swing sets again and slides and all that. But then at one certain point, now you're starting to push people out the area. And you know what I find strange about this? Because this is a good subject for me right here. You know, Flint Park over there off of Pearson Road, where Devil's Lake and all that, I don't know how old you all are. But see, it used to be a park and a carnival and all that stuff that they trying to turn it right back into. But you build up over there because General Motors was here. So it gave you black middle class. Okay? That area of DuPont, Graceland, Mott, Edmond, Cranwood, Darrell Drive, York, Bundy, Elm, Austin, Root, Russell, all of those General Motor workers. Every single one of them. Right the street now. Empty, blank, vacant, burnt up, beat up, light up. One house, nice. Beat up, blank. They're trying to squeeze us out. Yep. So they can do whatever. When I was going out and taking signatures, so many people complained to me that they went to Land Bank. Land Bank wouldn't even sell them the property to turn it over. So then, if it's not about us building our neighborhood and our wards back on the north side, what is it about? Are you trying to squeeze us up out of here and tell us to leave? Because that's the only thing you can actually be doing without saying it. It's like you just trying to slide us and squeeze us up out of here, thinking we won't pay no attention to it. And I've been paying attention to it because I thought that was awful strange that you can just keep having empty lots. And I know people who want to buy a lot next to them to expand it. Not we don't expand it for the taxes. And then why is it that Home Habitat only work with certain folks? Why Home Habitat is not working with us when they're sitting in the city of Flint? You don't want to live in the city of Flint. You should be sitting here. Because how many houses that they actually built? If anybody know, I looked it up to find it out. So I see them on TV. I see HDTV people come here. Please tell me what black home they went into and help them to build up their house that was bad or looking down or something wrong. You know. Okay, so back to that before I get on this real rant, I'm going to say that master plan needs to be remastered by another master plan. And we should own our own because I do know Tennessee County own land bank, so we need to separate ourselves. Flint City needs their own everything. Separate us from these other people. People trying to get water when they wasn't supposed to get water, and they didn't live in the city, but they were too trying to go get their home. Going and taking the water filters and getting them and trying to take them back and making it look like it was the city doing it. We need our own and to keep it in our own.
Beautiful, beautiful. All right, those are the questions that I have. So what I'd like to do is, am I going to turn it over to? Beautiful. I'm going to call Minister X up. If he can come up, he's going to facilitate the question and answer session.
Right, thank you. There's some good questions and good answers so far. So what we want to do, if anybody out here in the audience has a question, come over to this area, grab the mic, turn it on, and ask your question, and then we will start with the candidate to begin the answer.
While he's coming to the microphone, I do have a question for the candidates. My question is, how would you work and get along with the current administration? I know it's been some, not so kumbaya-ish between council and administration, but I want to know how would you feel about working with the current administration?
Okay, so I would say that the current administration has adopted issues of a previous administration. And so I would not judge this administration at this point by previous behaviors that they're stuck with. So I would rather that we just start all over, everybody with a clean slate. And let's just start it all over again, and that way we will be all in co-op with each other. We will all stay on the same page. We will start with that transparency, and that should run right on into what we need to do for the city of Flint, and we'll all be on the same page. Thank you.
Oh, boy. Well, first of all, I will continue to do what I do right now, is that I speak with Mayor Neely every time that I see him. And the last time that I seen him, I had a 30-day kick it to the curb plan that I, talked it over with him about it. And he said, get back with him, and I am going to get back with him, and we're going to try to see if we can get this done, because, that's the kind of person that I am. And he also knows the kind of person that I am. So I think we can really skip through a lot, and we've been agreeing to disagree for basically ever since he decided not to be, ever since his last year as a state rep. And like I said, I don't see any problems with me dealing with him, because I'm willing to sit down and talk to him. And what people have to understand is it really boils down to just call the question, just vote. Instead of going through all of whatever, and sometimes you're going to be a part of the vote that wins, and sometimes you're going to be a part of the vote that don't win. And I really feel that what's going on now in City Hall is just exaggeration. I mean, they should just get up there. And first of all, it got to be more meetings. They just can't come in there and throw 2 months worth of meetings in one meeting and then complain about being in a meeting 100 hours. So they need to have more meetings, and people need to attend more meetings. It really just needs to be more meetings. Thank you.
I'm the type of person that can work with just about anybody. I have no problems with Mayor Neely. I had no problems with the last administration. It's all about compromise and what's best for the city of Flint. You have to make sure that you put the residents and the constituencies forward, and they have to be foremost in everybody's mind, and that's not happening right now. It's all about the people. And it takes a village. It really does. And I can work with anybody, and I think that Mayor Neely, I think he is a pretty level-headed guy. I've not really dealt with him that much personally, but I don't see there being an issue. I don't think he's just a solid brick wall that is incapable of moving. I think there will be compromise on both sides. Thank you.
I agree with Ms. Amy in saying that we all need to work together. I'm gonna be a little colorful in my answer because there's no one that I know more dedicated than a Black baby mama. And right now, what we need to do is raise up a city. So if we're raising up a city, we're raising this together. Everybody has to work together. So even if we don't agree, we can't split the baby. The whole point is to make progress. So I've been a baby mama and I've had to work with baby daddies. I think that's a qualification that would definitely work in the city council because no matter what you do, your focal point is your child. And our focus point should be raising up a city.
Compromise is a good term, but I think communication is the biggest term that we should take away here. I think everybody within city council needs to communicate directly with the administration. I know a lot of that involves emails through CC and BCCs. I would use that CC button. Let everybody know what you're talking about so that it's out there. The communications need to be open and transparent. If you can't make it, let's go ahead and divest that information and understand it so that we can push the city forward on the same accord. If everybody has a piece of information and they're all different, it's really hard to get to the matter that's at hand and accomplish some success for the city.
Devon, you have extra question? Oh, you was on the mic.
Sorry. I had two questions, one for everyone present and then one for Ms. Keisha Turo. My first question for everyone is they're talking about how long the meetings go on and how infrequent attendance is. So my question to all the candidates here is what plans have you made to ensure that you're here for the meetings so that when the meetings are occurring, they have quorum and people are just leaving so that we can't get any business done because people aren't staying or not available to make these meetings.
I have the mic, so I'll go first. With the role comes duty. I mean, that's what you were elected to do. Show up to the meetings, be present, be active, and be involved. That's my plan.
In one of my emails that I sent to the current city council, I asked if they could have separate meetings solely for the citizens. Meetings to handle city business, but meetings to address citizens separately. So there will be enough time for citizens to be heard, as well as enough time to get city business handled. But everyone needs to show up. The fact that right now, because of COVID, we've seen that online meetings have worked. Even if we have to do some online meetings, we have to make it work. But I disagree totally with meetings going until 3 a.m. in the morning and still getting nothing accomplished. So if we have to split the meetings up, I propose that already to have the citizens be able to address the city council solely in one meeting.
Well, I'm not on city council yet, but I still listen to every meeting and every committee meeting, and I'm there the whole time. If it's 9 hours, I'm there 9 hours. So I have no problem making the commitment to be there. I will be there for everyone. I won't leave early.
First of all, I do recognize the situation that the current city council is facing. We all gotta realize that most of them have jobs, and that requires 8 to 10 hours of their day. And to make city council available full-time. I feel that the city council needs to be compensated. And they also need compensation to where we will have an assistant. I feel right now that the city council is asked to do a lot. And a lot of them ain't even doing what they are supposed to be doing. And I just feel that we need to, look at the whole picture. But the number one problem that's going on with the city council right now is the absence of committee meetings. They stopped having committee meetings. And that put them into this log jam that they are currently in. I am willing to attend all meetings. I am willing, if they need me to make that fifth person so that meeting take place, because I do understand that other people have things that they have to do, I'm going to do it because my regular life is like mentoring and basketball training with kids. So I will adapt my schedule to be at those meetings, but I also understand the hiccups of why some of them miss the meetings. Now, having an attitude and just leaving the meeting or something's gonna go down that you don't want to be a part of, missing the meeting, I ain't with that. I'm there for the good, the bad, and the ugly. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm a frontline worker. Due to the pandemic, I lost 5 patients, so I only have my 1 patient now. He's a double amputee from World War II. And so that's who I take care of, and that's what I do. As far as the meetings, they should be just regularly scheduled meetings, 2 to 3 hours long. I would think together in agreements to do work. With power comes great responsibility. Who's Spider-Man? And I think that once after you take on this power, then you need to be responsible, which means be at your meetings, be on time, don't miss meetings unless it's an emergency, because this is a job you get paid by the citizens and you're working for the people, and the people don't want you to keep continuing having an excuse not to be at the meetings that you should be at. So, that's pretty much my answer.
Okay, my last question was for Keisha. This is my first time hearing about the tiny home development, and my question was, because there seemed to be a little bit of contention about it, what are the benefits to the citizens to have tiny homes put in rather than traditional homes? Is there like a reason that we've chosen that, and could you explain that to us so we could better understand it?
Okay, the tiny homes are less expensive cost and less expensive upkeep. That's one. With the blight that's been going on in the city of Flint, we're trying to deal with low-income people, for one. 2, the shelters have become overfull to where they have been turning people away. So we're dealing with individuals, not necessarily families that are homeless. We have an epidemic of individual people, mostly men, that are homeless. A lot of people returning from prison, a lot of people with a mental illness. So we're trying to address more than one problem in Flint with the tiny homes. Low income, low maintenance, and we're dealing with individual people instead of families. So that's why for tiny homes.
Thank you. My name is Amelia. I'm in the 7th Ward.
Hello. Hello, Claudia Perkins. This is to any of you. What would you do to make a difference with the land bank, since there was an issue as far as them not selling to the citizens of Flint those types of things. What kind of plan could you put together to restructure that situation?
We definitely need a better working relationship with the land bank. I myself have purchased land bank homes, and that's how I do my supportive housing. I purchase land bank homes and I rehab them. And I began doing that for a couple reasons. One, because of the blight that was in my neighborhood, and instead of complaining about the abandoned homes, I started purchasing them to rehab them, and I house homeless, mentally ill residents. So I think we need to have a definite, better working relationship with the land bank, and that's where accountability comes in there, because this is our city. This is our city, and there's no way we should have to beg someone to sell us land or houses that's in our neighborhoods. We need to hold these people, these leaders, accountable, more accountable. And I'm not saying just get out on the street and protest. I'm saying literally hold them accountable at meetings if we have to stop or halt their income, because most people won't listen until there's income involved. If we have to stop their income, we need to do that. But this is our city. There's no way we shouldn't be able to purchase homes in our own neighborhood to rehab our neighborhoods.
I was with Michael Freeman this morning. I was working on a land bank property, and I think that one of the keys to addressing the issues with land bank is first and foremost being professional about it. And when you have an issue with an entity, whether it's the land bank, the city, wherever it may be, professional communication. You know, you address somebody with respect, you should expect nothing back but respect. And so what I found a lot of times in the community is people start to voice their opinions with emotion. And that's where the conversation tends to get lost. So professional communication, involve the organizations at hand and work through those issues. I had a very pleasant experience working with the land bank on this property. Renee was very helpful and worked with City of Flint Blight Department, Lindsay Crawford over there. Everything went very smooth in terms of getting the allocation of materials. I worked with the Keep Genesee County Beautiful, getting some of the supplies. So it's doable. And in terms of the policies and procedures, I spent about an hour and a half speaking with Michael about a month ago. And I think one of the critical voids that the Genesee County Land Bank has right now is education. A lot of people don't quite understand what the Genesee County Land Bank is, how they operate, or how to maneuver through their system. And I think that's very important for citizens to be able to know so that they can act upon that.
I think that he's right. You do need to address them with respect. We have council members that sit on the land bank board for their meetings. And I've heard that that council member has not been attending. And I think we need somebody who's going to attend and give input as far as what the council's looking for, as far as what the residents are looking for. Personally, we've been trying to acquire a vacant lot that's next to our property. And we've had quite an issue getting through the land bank. We haven't had emails or phone calls returned. And we started this process last year. So there's a lot of room for growth as far as they're coming across and returning calls and emails. But I think, again, if you address them with respect, and if we can get somebody to actually appear at the board meetings and to sit through and listen and communicate, that'll get us a lot farther with them. Thank you.
First of all, I want to say thank you to Claudia Perkins Milton. She is the only current person that's on the ballot now that's here today. So thank you for supporting us. Oh, also, stand up, young man.
Correct King.
Correct King is also here. You got the mask on, man. And plus you didn't bring your brother to, that wasn't you. Yes, it was. You didn't bring your brother to basketball practice, did you? Is that you? Was that you?
No, it was not.
And wasn't you? Okay, good. Well, anyway, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the bleeding. And what I mean by that is Land Bank will not be getting any more homes from the citizens of Flint prematurely. The second thing that I would do is find some kind of way to stop them houses from going to livable to demo. The way I'll presume about doing that is immediately, once they become unoccupied, immediately taking away all interests, that's including the porches. They can't get in the house. It's a house right up the street on Jameson and Buick. Been standing. If y'all can look around, it's a whole lot of houses that have been tore down. That house been empty for 20 years, but it do not have any stairs, and it has not been touched. And it's houses that have been empty for less than a year that have been burnt down in the same neighborhood. So that's one thing I would try to do. And then another thing I would try to do is get some of those homes back that they have improperly received, untimely received. Because from my knowledge is they were just getting houses. And we need to end that. So I would definitely do that, and I would try to talk to the people who had success, because I have heard a whole lot of horror stories when it comes to people trying to get a land bank house. So whatever good people y'all have been coming in contact with, can y'all please let my people know about them? Because all I hear is horror stories when it comes to land bank. And it's even bad as far as their upkeep. On some of these situations that we call blight, started at a land bank house that became empty, that the belongings were neatly put on the curb, but now that the house is not occupied, the land bank ain't going to pick up the trash, and guess what? The trash company is going to do? Ride right by it. So we gotta eliminate that problem too, and that's one of the things that when I do sit down and talk to Mayor Neely, which will be soon, we're going to talk about, because in order to clean this city up, it's going to take the blight department, land bank, the citizens of Flint, and whatever trash company we got. And we got to establish that on garbage day, whatever is on the curb, whatever kind of truck it is that's needed, get it there and get it picked up. And if we can do this for 4 weeks in a row, we can. If we don't clean this city up, it'll just look way better than what it do now. Because 90% of our blight problems started as common trash that wasn't picked up on garbage day. Thank you.
What I feel about land bank is I think they are holding the city hostage, as far as I'm concerned. All I see is high grass and trash at those homes. Seems like they let them stay abandoned so long until they have to be torn down. But that being said, you also have to have a serious city government. And if you don't have a serious city government that is transparent, again, that transparency keeps coming out. Because when they see that it's honesty, then they have to build a relationship with you regardless of the fact. Because if they don't build a relationship with you, then, as like Keisha said, you take away their meat and potatoes off that plate, and then they'll come forth. But I think that the problem actually with them is that there hasn't been enough serious government. There hasn't been enough participation from the city staff nor the citizens to come forth. If and I'm sorry, but if it take a petition, if it take a court hearing, whatever it takes for us to obtain our homes to be able to take care of them in our city, I think we should all be willing to do just that. So hopefully it wouldn't have to be a fight, that they would see that there's a new serious city government that they can respect and they be respected by, and then we could do business. And then if we couldn't do business after that, then I guess we need to go legal then, so we can handle it, because we can't continue to let them run down our city and not let us participate in building back better. Thank you.
Okay, I have another question. This is for everybody. What is your take on the decimation of the Flint school system?
Well, I'll tell you about that. 2014, I wrote a thesis at the University of Michigan of why, if the lottery, the thesis is, if the lottery is for school systems, then why are they shutting down our schools? Okay. Well, needless to say, that thesis got me incomplete because I asked a hard-hitting question that I did not know I was going to get that response. And I actually spoke to the commissioner of the lottery. And so it looks like it's being a pick and choose area to them of where they want to do the business and give money to education. But it's not just that though. It's not just that. When they hear about a community being run down, they don't want to put money, and because I wouldn't want to put money into a community like that when I know that people aren't going to school, no responsible adults to send children, and that area it has not that many children. That's one thing. But when you have an area that you know needs a school and you all are not giving it to it, then something else is going on here and we're not getting it. Okay, so then we don't even have a city government that can go and speak on our behalf to the lottery commissioners and say, hey, wait a minute here, hey, hold on. Why is not my Flint Board of Education getting the monies that they should get from this lottery? Okay, so then why do we have GICS, a Genesee Intermediate School District? Are you kidding me? For Flint Public School. So guess what just happened to your Flint Public School money? It went to Genesee Intermediate School District and they gave it to the county. You have to stand up. You gotta stand up and you gotta make a change in what's going on around here. If not, the city of Flint will no longer be your city of Flint or my city of Flint. It's gonna belong to somebody else, either the county or it's gonna belong to the state, because they're gonna keep squeezing you and squeezing me until they squeeze us up out of here because we're tired. And so we definitely, that definitely is something that needs to be like addressed like yesterday. Thank you.
My thing about the Flint Public Schools is, I look at this FCC when they are advertising, trying to get kids to enroll in that school. And I think about the Flint Public Schools when I went there. I'm like, how y'all gonna take all our programs away, all the good things that we did, then give it to another thing? And then I have been talking to some of the people that live in the Carpenter Road School area. And they told me that they kept pushing the charter school, kept pushing these buses until they got their enrollment to drop enough to close Carpenter Road School. You gotta remember, Carpenter Road School is surrounded by apartment complexes. What live in apartment complexes? Children. So you're telling me they want to bus 3 apartments full of kids out of the city of Flint, and it happened, and it's happening. We are in the 3rd ward right now, a ward without a school. A ward without a school. Right now, they do a little thing in there talking about they're gonna take away their after school. They used to didn't have nothing to do with the after school programs. They ain't have nothing to do with the rec leagues and none of that. And matter of fact, we ain't in Berston right now. We are in the Friends of Berston. This is not the city of Flint anymore. We don't own our garbage trucks. We done gave away the city, including our schools. We have been bamboozled by the charter school system. Point blank. The charter schools are getting our kids, closing our schools, and sending our kids back to us after they have received money for them. So what got to happen, we got to start with the parents. Snatch your kids out of those charter schools. Demand that the public schools do what they got to do and open up a neighborhood school back. Stop busing your kids out of Flint and demand that they get taught. And the community needs to step up and get behind these school board members and make sure that they got the funding to put good teachers in our classrooms. And once again, make Northwestern look like that Central that they want to rebuild. Because that Central that they want to rebuild ain't nothing but the old Northern and North. Remember, we had auto mechanic classes. We had a lot of stuff that they're offering now like it's new. It's not new. So that's how I feel about the school board. The school board need us to stand with them and demand that we go back to how it was back in the day. Thank you.
In order to grow our communities back, we need to build up these schools again. Children have to have a good education, and right now they're not getting that in the Flint community schools. We need to bring back all the after-school programs. We need to have tutoring, and there has to be a good, solid base of schools. Don't cram all the children in one school. That's not going to work. One high school for everybody isn't going to work. We need to bring back the Flint schools. Thank you.
I agree that we need to bring back Flint schools, but we can't bring back Flint schools without building up the city of Flint. No parent is willing to risk their child's health, safety, or education to build up a school that's not prepared for the children. Without income, I'm gonna go back to the income. Without income, we can't build up our educational system. Without residents, we can't build up income. So we have to build the city of Flint first before we can build on the education. But I do absolutely want Flint schools to be built back up. There was a time where we had pride for the school. I graduated from Northwestern. I had pride for the school I graduated from, just as Northern did and Central did, and we all rivaled against each other, and we're proud of our schools. I want that to come back, but we have to start with building back the city, and that's what I believe.
Thanks for the question, Ms. Perkins. So while council and the Flint board are completely separate, I attended the meeting the other night, and I wholeheartedly believe that every single person that's involved with that situation, from the superintendent all the way to Ridgeway White, are responsible for not putting the kids first in that debacle. I think that the programs that the Mott Foundation provides to the city of Flint in other schools in the community are highly valuable. They provide stability for families, education, extra hours for kids. Instead of those programs, they could be in the streets because Flint Community Schools, quite frankly, doesn't have those programmings anymore. These programs were actually championed throughout the entire country. Flint used to be a primary example of what education used to look like. And so I would love to see everybody get on the same page. And at the top of that page, everybody write kids in capital letters and focus on that when they're making their decisions. Thank you.
Okay, we have a lot of injustice across the United States. And so we have organizations that really fight, such as Black Lives Matter, we have Man Up, we have Democracy Defense, we have organizations like that. What are your thoughts on those type of organizations for this city?
As somebody said before, it takes a village. All the programs for all the kids.
I definitely support organizations that's supporting the community, that's wanting to enhance the lives of the youth. So I'm all for any program that will go out, break up fights, because I am aware that Jaleel program does that. I highly commend them for doing what they're doing, because that's more of what we need in Flint, is people having compassion for the people that's lost, instead of viewing them as hazardous or bad kids and writing them off. So I'm all for building up the community.
Before you go, Ms. Haynes, due to the time constraints, they want all the answers to be down to 2 minutes from the questions from the audience. They ask for 2 minutes. So in my Eric Mays voice, these goofy rules, you got 2 minutes.
I was waiting for somebody to go there today. I will keep it brief. I am in support of anything that's going to help our youth. We have to find things for our kids to do besides hang out on the streets. There needs to be programs. They need to be involved in the community. They need to feel like they belong and that they're wanted and respected. Thank you.
We have a weather emergency. Severe thunderstorm warnings for Genesee County for how long? Until 6 p.m. people. So you would know. So I'm gonna make it simple and easy for the person that she has. Me myself, I think 2 programs, and I don't know, I guess I'm about to tell my age, but I think 2 programs really should come back to the city of Flint. One would address a couple of things. Police cadets. How many of y'all remember police cadets? Police would come, you join police cadets like the Brownies or like the Boy Scouts or like the Girl Scouts, it was a group, and then they recruited you, and you kind of policed around in your neighborhood as a child. So they should bring that back. And then stepping stones. Remember anybody remember Lot? And stepping stones and Amity House? Yeah, none of y'all remember. But this is a place where they groomed young women. And they taught them class and how to cook and how to sew and how to clean and how to take care of themselves and be responsible young women. It had nothing to do with no babies, because I went and my mother went and her mother went and all my moms went. And I think that that's another type of program that should be instilled into the city, which will help our children. But it is most definite that our children need their education, and that should be like our number one thing, is that we do not want our children stupid. Thank you.
We're gonna have a 1 in 3 total
First of all, I am proud to be a member of Man Up. I am proud to associate myself with Black Lives Matter. I am in deep communication with Black Lives Matter. We communicate whatever they need, whatever I need, we get on it together. We have a passion for helping these people, and we understand them. I have discovered a little glitch in society. I know these kids that are what we are the subject of our conversation when it comes to negativity. And it's lack of open programs. These kids need to be coming to open programs to where we can reach out and touch them. They are not in these current after-school programs. They're not there. So we need y'all, we need everybody to work together. Let's get some of these rec centers back open. Let's get some of these open programs back on. So Brother Jaleel and Man Up and Brother Dewan and Black Lives Matter can go into these people and catch them at their environment and give them a helping hand. Thank you.
Good afternoon to everyone. My name is Rashard Wagner, and I have two quick questions.
One moment, please. And I'm sorry.
Oh,
I
I'm
didn't
sorry.
answer the question.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. I apologize.
I said something, but it didn't have anything to do with the question. So, yes, I am down with non-violent activism. As a matter of fact, I was one of the people who was on City Hall when I was a little girl that they turned those sprinklers on because I was marching with my mom back in the day. So any peaceful protest that will make things change and that matters, I'm all for it, and I'm definitely a part of Black Lives Matter because I'm a Black life that matters.
Good afternoon to everyone. I'm Rashard Wagner, and I have two quick questions for the entire panel. The first question is, once you all are elected onto the city council, how will you all work together to deal with certain council members that may come across as having or having a disposition to where their attitude is very negative, very toxic? How will you all work together with them? Second question, how will you all also work to enforce the city charter to hold whether the mayoral administration, future administrations accountable for certain actions that are taken at an administrative perspective? And finally, how will you all hold future businesses that are looking to come into the city of Flint accountable in terms of tax abatements and things of that nature? Thank you.
Okay, when it comes to working with difficult people, there has to be compromise, and I can do that. I can disagree with you, and we can agree to disagree. There doesn't have to be conflict, there doesn't have to be any animosity, you have to work for the betterment of the city. And that is the bottom line, is what is best for the city of Flint, not how I feel about a certain person that's on council or how they feel about me. For the next part, if I can remember the next part of the question. If you could repeat that, please.
Second question was, how will you enforce the city charter? I know on previous councils, when there were certain ordinances and certain things that were written into the city charter to be enforced, those things were not being enforced by whatever council was in place during that time. How will you all work together to enforce the city charter and to hold any mayoral administration or any administrative entity within the city accountable for what needs to be done appropriately? And the last part of that question was, how will you all work to hold businesses accountable that come into the city of Flint for financial purposes? I know there, when Jim was here, there was a big thing about tax abatements and things like that. How will you hold those types of businesses accountable that come to the city of Flint in terms of creating that residual income that will go back into the city?
As far as enforcing the charter is our law and it has to be enforced. Currently we have the Ethics and Accountability Board, and unfortunately they don't have a lot of power. They report to the ombudsperson, and the ombudsperson is the one who takes action. I think we need to look at how that board and the ombudsperson is set up, and we need to reevaluate it. I think there's better choices that could be made and different things that could be done so that the charter is implemented more and that it's regulated. And as far as the new businesses with holding them accountable for their tax abatements, I personally am not a fan of the tax abatements. I think the citizens of Flint should be getting the tax abatements and not these businesses that want to come here and get, perfect example, the new apartment complex that's coming in off of Flushing Road. They're getting a 50-year tax abatement. I do not believe that those buildings will be standing in 50 years. Why should they get that kind of an abatement when the residents of Flint are paying year after year higher taxes every year? Thank you.
First of all, only a great plan is going to get a yes vote from me. And what I mean by a great plan, you don't need nothing. Only thing that business is coming in telling us what property they want and how many people they're going to hire, and they have no problem paying their taxes. If you got to come in here and we got to do something in order for you to come here, like the Capitol Theater, like the apartment complex that she's talking about, that's crazy. That's crazy. And I'm walking around. I was on black businesses was in this neighborhood that you are now in. Do you know that Industrial Street was a mini downtown? There's not a business. Well, there's one barbershop left on this whole street, from McClellan to Stewart. And then I can stretch it on down there, but we ain't gonna even count that part. So what I'm saying is, I'm looking for businesses that can come in and has an export probability, because we can't keep depending on making sure that we keep each other open, because we need an export business. Tennis shoes, t-shirt, anything that people out of town that do not live in Flint can buy in the masses. And if we can get 10 or 20 of those kind of businesses, we can start to rebuild our city. But right now, all I see is little t-shirt businesses. We can get a couple of little barbecue pits. Well, you know, ain't nobody buying no mansion off of no barbecue pit, and ain't no barbecue pit hiring no more than one person. So we need to really put our heads together and really get creative and really think about bringing some real money back into Flint. Because the more money we bring into Flint, the less we have to fight with downtown. Because right now, downtown trying to take 90% of it. So we got to get a bigger percentage so we can get them their 90 and we can have 92 and everybody can be happy. Thank you.
Okay, so I think I remember what his questions were, but I would say that I believe in fair play. The city charter has rules that you should just enforce by sticking to it. In order to stick to the rules and do what's right. Transparency, again, is my big word, all the way across the board. The ombudsman needs to stay in contact
administration for, with the mayor. So it just has to be transparency all the way. There can't be no tax deals. They need to pay their taxes so that our taxes don't be high, and they should not be getting abatements. No, if you come here, you just pay your taxes like everybody else, because that's what they're gonna ask of small business as well as big business. So let's just pay the taxes, let's not play that game and mess with money and start getting everything confused, because that would just send us back to the same hole where we're at right now. And that's, we don't even wanna start that. As soon as we can see it, we shouldn't even wanna deal with that. If they can't come here, pay their taxes like they're supposed to, they live in our city, pay our city taxes, and give back to the people here, then we shouldn't do business with them. That's just like how I feel about it. But as far as, like I said, the city charter and the Robert's rules, we should be doing all of that. That way everything stays clear. That way citizens aren't confused on what we're talking about, what we're saying, or it sounds like complete jargon. We should stick to what we're supposed to be doing, because, so that every time we speak, everybody is on the same page. The whole city knows what we're talking about. It's not any confusion. Nobody's into an argument about it. And people can respect those when you can't seem to agree eye to eye with someone else. There's a way to compromise, and that's just what has to be done in order to do the job for the people. That's a part of your job, is compromise. Thank you.
As far as the council being held to enforce the ordinance, that's actually not the council job, because the council legislate. We would make up the rules and the ordinances. The executive branch is the one that's supposed to enforce it. They execute the ordinance or the laws that the council make up. So the council would need to make sure we hold the people who's in charge of going out to the people and executing these ordinances. We need to make sure we hold them accountable so that the job is being done, because it's actually not the council job to enforce the ordinances, but we would come up with the ordinances. For example, there's an ordinance right now for no trespassing and loitering at a store that sells alcohol. The council implemented the ordinance, but it's up to the executive branch to send the police out there to execute that. And right now that's not being done because we have a shortage of policing. But I definitely think it's important to have cohesive a work environment to where the council, the legislative branch and the executive branch are working side by side. That's the most important thing. And then to the other question about the abatements, I am a business owner, and I definitely promote business in the city because that's one of the ways we're going to get the city to come back. However, I do not believe in a 50-year abatement. But in order to draw businesses to the city, we have to give some incentives, because you can't just say, come to Flint, where the crime is high and the residents are down. There has to be a reason to draw a business. Also, the business needs to be giving back to the citizens, such as Sunoco. We had to really utilize the owner of Sunoco. Well, that's my time, but the businesses should be giving back to the city.
Okay, well, I want to make sure I address all these questions. So in terms of working with current council members, again, professional atmosphere, it needs to be done cordially and with professionalism, excuse me. There's going to be differences, but you have to agree to disagree when the time is right. You can't always have your way, and I've heard the word compromise thrown out a few times, so I think compromise at that level is very important. In terms of upholding the charter, it's our duty to uphold the charter. And so I think that's pretty self-explanatory and simple. It just needs to be enforced and followed. In terms of abatement, I'm very pro-business. And I've lived in bigger cities throughout the country, And when you look at tax abatements, those are typically accompanied by some greater benefit to the community. And so a business will come in and have this great benefit for the community, and that community then delivers the tax abatement so that we can retain or attract and retain that business. Flint is not attractive right now for any business, considering the crime, the blight, the school system. That's one of the number one things that a family will look at when they go to move is what is the school system, where's my child going to go to school? So without some of these other issues addressed, we are going to be giving higher abatement incentives, tax abatement incentives to attract those businesses. Once we tackle some of these underlying issues, I think that we will be able to level out that playing field in terms of tax abatements and be able to get a bigger bang for our buck as a community.
I was told I had the final question, so I want to thank all of the candidates, writing candidates for coming out. Thank all of the audience for coming out, taking time to hear from the